We're back on the record. P versus Sementilli. Defendant is present. All counsel present. Jury and also present. Mr. Zepeda, you're still under oath, and the people may continue with their direct examination.
Thank you.
Exhibit 195 that has a 7 in the lower left corner. We were talking about the comparisons that you made to the stains on the kitchen floor and the garage floor. Can you tell us, with respect to item 9, or PID 9, what were you able to determine?
So this was the swab of the red stain from the floor. This item matched the DNA profile obtained from Robert Baker.
And what about the next item, PID 10, item 10, again, the other stain on the kitchen floor?
This item also matched the DNA profile obtained from Robert Baker.
And if we look at the profiles next to each other, we're talking about the exact same profile, correct?
Yes, you see the same numbers at every single location.
And then the garage floor, the column to the far right, item 43, PID 36, what did you determine regarding that item?
That was the swab of the reddish brown stain from the floor. That DNA profile matched the DNA profile obtained from Robert Baker.
Showing you what's now been marked as Exhibit 195 that has a 6 in the lower left corner. Again, looking at the reference sample in blue, the DNA profile you developed for Robert Baker, but now looking at evidence samples recovered from the Porsche, the left door panel, the interior left door panel, what do we see here? Which would be item 54, PID 11.
Yes, this DNA profile also matched the DNA profile obtained from Robert Baker.
And the one next to that, the left, or the driver's seat controls, which is item 61, PID 18. What were your conclusions about that particular item?
This DNA profile also matched the DNA profile obtained from Robert Baker.
And again, just for reference, the interior driver's door in Exhibit 193 that has a 14 in the bottom left corner, this is the stain here that you tested, correct?
Yes.
And with respect to the driver's seat control in Exhibit 193 that has an 18 on the bottom left, again, this red stain that we see next to the red sticker with the arrow pointing to the stain?
Yes.
Now, did you, when you say it matched to Baker, you talked to us before the break about being able to calculate statistics to determine the rarity of a particular profile. Did you calculate statistics in this case?
I did.
And what did you determine with respect to all of these results contained in Exhibit 195, 6, 195, 7?
So the DNA profiles obtained from, I'll go through the item numbers, item 43, 54, 61, 9, and 10 occur approximately 1 in 5 quintillion unrelated individuals.
I'm sorry. Say it again, please.
1 in 5 quintillion unrelated individuals.
If we hear the number quintillion, I mean, most of us know what a million or a billion or maybe even a trillion, but when we talk about a quintillion, how many zeros are we talking about?
5 quintillion is a 5 followed by 18 zeros.
Okay. So what is the current population of the Earth, approximately?
At the time we did this testing, it was about 7 billion individuals.
It's probably somewhat greater than that, but not quite 8, correct?
That's around 8 now.
Okay. So how many times the population of the planet Earth would you need before you would see that number again, that profile?
So if you, Earth, like I said, is at this time was about 7 billion individuals. You would need 700 million populations the size of Earth. So 700 million times what Earth's population is to have 5 quintillion. So on average, we'd only expect to see this DNA profile 1 in every 5 quintillion unrelated individuals.
Okay, so we're talking about a very rare DNA profile here.
It's a very small number, yes.
Okay. All right, let's talk about a report that you authored that was dated November 9th of 2017 with respect to, again, various samples such as
Evidence from the crime scene. We look at what's been previously marked as People's 8 that has the number 11 in the lower left corner. Placard or PID number 1, this blood stain that we see here out on the patio area. Did you do an analysis of that stain?
Yes, I did.
And what result did you obtain?
This DNA profile was consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Fabio Sementilli.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, it was consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Fabio Sementilli.
Okay. And did you calculate a statistic?
Yes. So in this case, because when I analyzed the reference initially, I was only analyzing 15 locations. Once I got to this request, we had already changed over to looking at 23 different locations. So I only had 15 locations to compare because of the limitation of the reference. So using 15 of 23 locations, this DNA profile occurs in approximately 1 in 2 quintillion unrelated individuals.
Okay. So again, you told us a quintillion has 18 zeros.
Yes, so this would be a 2 followed by 18 zeros.
How about PID number 3 that we see here in People's 8 that has a number 12 in the lower left corner? Again, another stain from the patio area. Did you obtain a result for that particular stain?
Yes, this DNA profile is also consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Fabio Sementilli, and it was the same statistic. So using 15 of 23 locations, the DNA profile obtained occurs in approximately 1 in 2 quintillion unrelated individuals.
Okay. What about the stain that we can see here in People's Exhibit 7? Has a 41 in the lower left corner. Looks like it's on the door jamb area leading to the patio from the kitchen.
Yes, so this was a red stain on the back door interior door jamb. This DNA profile that I obtained from this item was also consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Fabio Sementilli, And using 15 of 23 23 locations, the DNA profile obtained occurs in approximately 1 in 2 quintillion unrelated individuals.
Looking at the stain inside the kitchen under PID 12, in People's Exhibit 7 with a 29 in the lower left corner, a stain on this drawer here, the exterior of the drawer. Did you obtain DNA results for that particular blood stain?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
So we call this a swab of reddish-brown stain on the cabinet. This was consistent with a mixture of 2 contributors, meaning that we had DNA from at least 2 different people, including at least 2 males. The major DNA profile obtained from this item. So a major DNA profile is sometimes when we're able to perform a DNA analysis, we can determine a major profile. So we can see that there's the DNA from 2 people there, but based on the intensity of the peaks that we get during our analysis, so when the DNA profile is actually coming off the instrument, the raw data, we're able to determine a major profile. So it's a DNA profile that's much more intense than the other. So in this case, we were able to determine a major DNA profile. And the major DNA profile obtained from this item was consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Fabio Sementilli. So using 15 of 23 locations, the major DNA profile obtained from this item occurs in approximately 1 in 2 quintillion unrelated individuals. The DNA profile of the minor contributor cannot be determined. So I wasn't able to do anything with that minor contributor, that second person.
The major contributor, that just means that individual looking at the peak heights contributed more DNA to the stain than the other, the minor.
Yes, so the intensity of those peaks of that DNA profile was more intense, so I was able to parse out that separate DNA profile.
And this also was a stain that tested positive for blood?
Yes, this was also positive for a presumptive test for blood.
Looking at the stain that we see on the leading edge deadbolt in Exhibit 724, PID 14. This red stain that we can see here, you were able to obtain results from that particular stain?
Yes, so we call this reddish stain from the garage door leading at deadbolt. So the DNA profile obtained from this item is consistent with a mixture of 2 contributors, including at least 2 males. The major DNA profile obtained from this item is consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Fabio Sementilli. So using 15 of 23 different locations, the major DNA profile obtained from this item occurs in approximately 1 in 2 quintillion unrelated individuals.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The DNA profile of the minor contributor cannot be determined.
Okay. So again, you had one individual who contributed more DNA to the mixture profile than the other.
Yes.
Okay. Let me give you a hypothetical. If the killer were to have, after murdering Mr. Sementilli on the back patio, came through the kitchen, through this door that we see here where we have the PID 14, and went into the garage and had blood from the victim on his hands, would that be consistent with the type of stain and results that you had in this case?
Yes, I think it would be consistent because blood is a very rich source of DNA. There's lots of DNA in blood. So when you have something, let's say from just touching an item, like if I'm touching this microphone or my notes here, I'm less likely to leave behind DNA from touch. It's not as rich of a source of DNA as blood. So if there's blood on my hands, I'm more likely to leave DNA behind from that blood than me actually touching the item.
So if we talk about touch, we're talking about skin cells, right?
It could be skin
Sweat.
cells. It could also be sweat. It could be some saliva, just because we do a lot of things with our hands. Like I run my hand through my hair, I could cough. So there's lots of ways we deposit DNA onto our hands.
But that is a less, as you said, rich source than perhaps what we would find with blood or semen.
Yes.
All right. Let me ask you about another sample, looking at People's 7. It has a 37 in the bottom left corner. If we look at PID 16, this little blue rag, did you obtain any results from this item?
Yes. So this in my report was called cutting from a reddish brown stain on the blue towel. Item 23, PID 16. This DNA profile matched the DNA profile obtained from Robert Baker. The DNA profile obtained from this item occurs in approximately once in greater than 1 septillion unrelated individuals.
So if we're talking about a septillion, how many zeros are we talking about here?
That's a 1 followed by 24 zeros.
Did you also test a stain from the
First floor hallway closet door, PID 25.
Yes.
What was the result that you obtained, if any?
The DNA profile obtained from this item was consistent with a mixture of 2 contributors, including at least 1 male. The major DNA profile obtained from, I believe we called this the swab of the reddish brown stain on the hallway closet, was consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Fabio Sementilli.
Okay.
So using 15 of 23 locations, that major DNA profile obtained from this item occurs in approximately 1 in 2 quintillion unrelated individuals.
And again, was this a stain that tested positive for blood?
Yes, it tested presumptively positive for blood.
Same hypothetical, if after the murder of Fabio Sementilli, the killer went through the home in order to stage a crime scene and transferred blood onto the closet door, would that be consistent?
Yes.
Looking at a stain from that same area, but this time the hallway floor, PID 26, did you test that item?
Yes.
And what results did you obtain?
The DNA profile obtained from the swab of the reddish brown stain from the hallway floor was consistent with a mixture of 2 contributors, including at least 1 male. The major DNA profile obtained from the sample is consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Fabio Sementilli. Same statistic, using 15 of 23 locations, the major DNA profile obtained from this item occurs in approximately 1 in 2 quintillion unrelated individuals.
And that stain did also chemically test positive for blood?
Yes, it was presumptive positive for blood.
looking at People's 193, there's a 16 in the bottom left corner. The stain that we see here on the steering wheel in the Porsche, did you test that particular stain?
Yes.
And what result did you obtain?
This was
PID 14.
item 57, correct?
57 is the swab item number, and the PID
Yes.
number is 14.
So the DNA profile obtained from this item matches the DNA profile obtained from Robert Baker.
And did that stain also test positive for blood?
Yes, it did.
And did you calculate a statistic?
Yes, this DNA profile occurs approximately once in greater than 1 septillion unrelated individuals.
And you told us a septillion means 24 zeros.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on to your report dated May 15th of 2018.
Showing you what was previously marked as People 7, page 18 in the lower left corner. Now we're talking about the manual garage door release handle. Did you test a swab of that particular area?
Yes, I did.
And what, if any, results did you obtain? This would be PID 39, swab number 42.
So the DNA profile obtained from the swab of the garage door track release handle is consistent with a mixture of 2 contributors, including at least 1 male. The major DNA profile obtained from this item is consistent with the DNA profile obtained from Robert Baker. Using 13 of 23 locations, the major DNA profile obtained from this item occurs in approximately 1 in 900 trillion unrelated individuals. The DNA profile of the minor contributor could not be determined. Sorry. Robert Baker could be included at the remaining locations, but I couldn't determine a major contributor.
So in other words, the remaining locations were consistent with his profile, his DNA profile.
His DNA profile can be seen in the remaining locations, but I couldn't determine a major DNA profile.
So if we're talking about a trillion, how many zeros is that? Or what are we looking at in terms of a number 900 trillion?
This is a 9 followed by 14 zeros.
Okay. In November of 2018, were you asked to provide a portion of the reference sample for Robert Baker to a DNA analyst on the sheriff's side of the crime lab?
Yes.
And who did you provide a portion of item 158, that swab, the 2 swabs for Robert Baker? Who did you provide that to?
Criminalist Leslie Thompson.
And do you know Leslie?
I know her from the sheriff's department, but not personally.
But you share, the
facility.
LAPD and the sheriff's department share the same building, correct?
Yes.
For the crime lab purposes.
Yes, that's correct.
I want to talk to you now about your report dated November 12th of 2020 with respect to some of the samples from the crime scene. Did you go back and use the statistical methods that had been implemented after your original reports were issued in order to update the DNA interpretation protocols using some of the newer software available for complex mixtures like StarMix?
Yes. So when we first switched to 23 different locations, we didn't have the statistical software online. But once we brought it online, I was able to go back and look at some of these profiles that I typed at 23 locations and use this statistical software to help me make comparisons using these mixtures.
Previously, I asked you about items in the hallway. Let me just go back in case a photograph is needed. Looking at the hallway here in People 752, we previously spoke about PID 25 that we see here on the a stain, it looks like, on the actual closet door, this tiny little red stain. Was that the stain that you previously gave us results for?
Yes, item 29 PID 25.
Okay. That was the one that was consistent with the victim. We talked about transferring potential blood or DNA onto this area.
Yes.
And looking at the same hallway, the stain on the floor just outside the master bedroom, in people 7 with a 53 in the lower left corner. That was the other sample that we talked about
That you said also was consistent with the victim in this case, Fabio Sementilli, correct?
Yes, the swab from the hallway floor, item 29 PID 25.
All right. Now, let's go back now and talk about a couple of the items where you did some recalculations. And I want to start with 14, which is the leading edge deadbolt.
There it is. We looked at this before. People 7, there's a 24 in the lower left corner. Did you calculate the statistic using StarMix software?
Yes, I did.
And what did you determine?
So I previously said this was a mixture of 2, including at least 1 male. So now with this statistical software, we're able to determine a few different things. So we have a mixture proportion. Mixture proportion is tells you about how much DNA each contributor contributes to that DNA profile. So we have mixture proportions of 98% and 2%. So the first contributor contributes about 98% of that DNA. The second contributes about 2% of that DNA. Fabio Sementilli is included as that 98% contributor. Robert Baker is excluded from this DNA profile. So using 15 of 23 locations, the DNA mixture profile is at least 300 quadrillion times more likely to occur if it originated from Fabio Sementilli and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown individuals.
Okay.
The remaining locations were not available for comparison because of Fabio's reference.
So the new statistical methods, if you use StarMix, you use what's referred to now as a likelihood ratio?
Yes, so a likelihood ratio is essentially a ratio of 2 different probabilities. So in this case, it was a probability that, because it was 2 individuals, that Fabio and an unknown individual can be included in this DNA profile versus the probability that 2 unknown individuals could be included in this DNA profile.
And so with respect to this particular likelihood ratio, your terminology was at least 300 quadrillion times more likely.
Yes.
Okay. That it originated from the victim and another unknown individual than 2 unknowns.
That is correct.
Okay. And I previously asked you about items in the kitchen sink. Now I want to refer you to this vinegar bottle, Heinz white vinegar, that we see here in people 7 with a 40 in the lower left corner. And did you test some swabs relative to this item?
I did.
Okay. And with respect to PID 20, looking at this little red dot here, this red stain, swab 25, booked as item number 25 under the DR. Did you obtain any results from that bottle handle?
Yes. So the swab of the handle is consistent with a mixture of 3, including at least 2 males. I obtained mixture proportions of 40%, 35%, and 26%. Fabio Sementilli is included as the 40% contributor. Robert Baker is included as the 35% contributor. So using 15 of 23 locations, the DNA mixture profile is at least 200 sextillion times more likely to occur if it originated from Fabio Sementilli, Robert Baker, and an unknown individual than if it originated from 3 unknown individuals. Because of Fabio's reference sample, the remaining loci were not available for comparison, or the remaining locations.
Okay. So the software program that you utilize now, or that you utilized here in terms of breaking down the percentages, the program actually will tell you the percentages for each contributor, correct? It breaks it down for you.
Yes, it gives us an approximate percentage of how much DNA that contributor is contributing to the profile.
Your Honor, I have a laboratory photograph of this vinegar bottle along with various notations. May it be marked as Peoples 196.
Yes.
Showing you now it's been marked as Peoples 196, and there is a 2 in the lower left corner. Can you tell us if you recognize what you see depicted here?
Yes, this is, it's hard to see the vinegar bottle, but there's a vinegar bottle there. This is a photograph that was taken in our laboratory, and it's marked with where the samples were taken.
Okay.
So the swab of the handle that I just spoke about, in our laboratory for our tracking, we called it a LIMS number, and it's where you see that 12-4-1. That's where that sample was taken from.
Here?
Yes, and then it's pointing to where the on the handle it was taken.
The handle area here?
Yes.
Okay. And a LIMS number is just a laboratory identification management system, correct?
Yes, LIMS stands for Laboratory Information Management System.
And so that's just another way, other than PID numbers or property report numbers, of tracking a particular sample?
It's how we, within our laboratory, track samples. So it's laboratory specific.
And did you also take a swab, or did you analyze a swab of the blood stain on the bottle itself?
Yes.
And did you reach any conclusions, obtain any results regarding that item? This would be item 25, PID 20.
Yes. So the blood stain on the bottle, if you look on here, it's 12-4-2. So this was a mixture of 3 contributors, including at least 2 males. I obtained mixture proportions of 83%, 11%, and 6%. Fabio Sementilli is included as the 83% contributor. Robert Baker is included as the 6% contributor. Using 15 of 23 locations, the DNA mixture profile is at least 1 septillion times more likely to occur if it originated from Fabio Sementilli, Robert Baker, and an unknown individual than if it originated from 3 unknown individuals. And I wasn't able to use the remaining locations because with Fabio's reference, it wasn't available for comparison.
Now, at a subsequent time in March of 2021, did you issue another report going back to this item after receiving a reference swab, a buccal swab, for the defendant, Monica Sementilli, from Detective Mitzi Roberts under item number 201?
I did.
Okay. And did you then go back to look at this particular item, PID 20, item 25 with respect to this vinegar bottle?
I did.
And what, if anything, did you determine at that point?
So like I said before, this was a mixture of 3, including at least 2 males. The mixture proportions were 83%, 11%, and 6%. Fabio Sementilli is included as the 83% contributor. Monica Sementilli is included as the 11% contributor. And Robert Baker is included as the 6% contributor. So using 15 of 23 locations, the DNA mixture profile is at least 1 septillion times more likely to occur if it originated from Fabio Sementilli, Monica Sementilli, Robert Baker than if it originated from 3 unknown individuals.
What was that number again?
1 septillion.
So again, how many zeros?
24.
With respect to swab 33, or item number 33, a blood stain from the master bedroom dresser, top drawer, PID 32. Was that a sample that you also analyzed for DNA?
Yes, this was a mixture of 2 individuals, including at least 1 male. I obtained mixture proportions of 87% and 13%. Fabio Sementilli is included as the 87% contributor. I have limited support for exclusion for Robert Baker. So for Fabio, using 15 of 23 locations, the partial DNA mixture profile is at least 90 billion times more likely to occur if it originated from Fabio Sementilli and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown individuals. For Robert, the partial DNA mixture profile is at least 20 times more likely to occur if it originated from 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from Robert Baker and an unknown individual. So basically, this analysis provides limited support that Robert Baker is excluded from the DNA profile, and we more often observe false exclusions in this likelihood ratio range.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Let's take our adjournment this time till tomorrow at 9 o'clock. The evidence applies. You'll not discuss this case either among yourselves or with anyone else. Or former express any opinions of the cause finally submitted to you. Have a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow at 9.